Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Foam Ensemble.
Please welcome President and CEO of ITS America, Ms. Laura Chase.
Good morning. How's that for a wake-up call? Welcome to Los Angeles. We are so excited to be here together finally with all of you after so much planning and a bit of a delay. But we're thrilled to see you all. This is very much a global event. We have 64 countries represented this week. And we're glad to see so many of our international colleagues who we have not seen in a couple of years. In this vein, I do want to start today by acknowledging another global happening. Today, as the world says farewell, we'd like to share in a moment of silence to honor the late Queen Elizabeth for her lifetime of service. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. So on behalf of ITS America, welcome to the 28th Annual World Congress, the first to be back in the United States since 2014. We are so thrilled to be here in Los Angeles, a city that truly embodies our theme of transformation by transportation. We have so much to showcase over the next several days, and we can't wait for you all to experience all the World Congress has to offer, innovations from across the globe and right here in Los Angeles. Although our debut was delayed, technology did not wait for us. It has been accelerating at a very rapid pace, and we hope you take full advantage of your time here to learn and experience how it has advanced and what's in store for the future. But remember, it's not just about the technology. It's about what these solutions can deliver to real people, to families like mine, families like yours, and communities that we live in, work in, and play in, to deliver safer, greener, smarter mobility for all. All of us in this room are early adopters. We've got 2 feet in, and we're ready to go. My message for you this week, as you experience and learn and network with all your colleagues, is to determine who is missing from this conversation and this work. Who do we need to bring into this work? Who will benefit from all of the wonderful innovations that we have but may not know it, may not understand it, or may have concerns? Are we listening? Are we hearing? Are we educating? And are we making changes to how we implement so that we're truly bringing communities and voices to the table to make sure that the benefits that we talk about are actually being delivered? So I ask all of you as you go through the week to come out at the end of this World Congress and identify a voice that you think needs to be brought into this work so we can actually scale adoption and really move these benefits forward for communities, not just in our country, but around the globe. I'm now honored to introduce someone who has been a leader in bringing communities to the table, along with emerging technology solutions, to provide better transportation and mobility. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti has led his city in transforming LA from a car-focused city to the transportation technology capital of the world. From overseeing a massive transit resurgence, the introduction of microtransit, and establishing the city's Transportation Innovation Technology Zone to help reshape communities, Mayor Garcetti has been a leader in bringing technology to benefit the residents of LA to his own city streets. I always say that transportation is access to opportunity, and Mayor Garcetti has put that into practice in Los Angeles. So please join me in a warm welcome for Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Good morning. As we also say in Los Angeles, buenos dias, and welcome to everybody to the City of Angels. We are so excited to see you in person, to be in this 3-dimensional space again after 2.5 years of Zoom meetings. It is now an actual meeting together where we can see each other's smiles, where we can feel each other's personalities, where we can have a sense of culture and of progress. And I want to welcome you to this city, which embodies every culture of the world, a city where you belong. Oftentimes we talk about diversity or inclusion, but the word I think is more powerful is belonging, because it implies we're all equal, and we each have a role in determining our future, in writing this chapter. And you couldn't be in a more exciting place when it comes to transportation and data and technology infrastructure investment than here in Los Angeles. I hope this will be the first of many trips you spend here in our city. In fact, in 2028, we'll be hosting for the third time the Olympics and for the first time the Paralympic Games. And we will see then really a city reimagined, reborn, one that is underway right now in a place where planes and trains and automobiles and ships all find themselves here at home. But I want to thank Laura and everybody in this Congress for coming here. I know this was planned for 2020, but to be together in 2022 is so exciting for all of us. Here is the, as I say, northern capital of Latin America, the western capital of the United States, and the eastern capital of the Pacific Rim, a place where all of these resurgent and growing economies all intersect. If we didn't have a Los Angeles, we'd have to build one, just given where we are geographically. But together with our weather and our topography, the beautiful coastline, we see so many people come in and out of this wonderful city. Whether it's LAX, which is the #1 busiest airport in the world for people who begin and end their flight in that city, or whether it's the port of Los Angeles together with Long Beach, bringing about 40% of the goods into America through those twin ports here in Los Angeles. A year ago, we saw 140 ships that were at bay waiting to get in because of our supply chain difficulties. Today, there's just 5 ships out there, and we're showing that it's often technology and innovation that can move people's lives forward. I know all of you, like me, love systems and data and innovation, but we remind ourselves that transportation isn't about programs and policies or funds. It's not about the bits and bytes. It's really about people. It's about that prism that refracts our life. Transportation isn't just a means to get somewhere. It is sometimes the end unto itself. The time we spend on a bus or a train, in a car, the work that we do to move things and people is the experience of this room. Each man and woman in this room feels that experience themselves. But I also say that cities are the laboratories and the factories of the future, creating technology and creating innovation to make sure that we improve our lives. Here in Los Angeles, we've had successes and failures. The successes of always innovating. LA, you probably didn't know, had the best public transportation system in the country in the 1930s and 40s, a series of red cars, we called them, that went on train tracks and took us to faraway places so that we could develop this city, now the 3rd largest economy in the world. But when that was seen as an old technology, we innovated and built these things called freeways, roads with no tolls. Cars were the way to get around, and that worked for about 40 or 50 years until suddenly traffic reminded us that might not be the best way to plan a city, nor to stay in traffic. So today we're trying to reimagine what it looks like in the future in Los Angeles, cementing our dynasty as a place where if we can not only engineer and imagine, but construct a rover that we send to Mars to move on that planet, we certainly should be able to move people through traffic here much more quickly. When I first ran for mayor, which was about 10 years ago, I said if Southern California brilliance can do that, put a man on the moon, help a rover on Mars, certainly we can fix what's wrong on our streets. It was in the 1984 Olympics that we developed the first high-tech traffic control system known as ATSAC, the Advanced Signal System, the Automated Traffic Surveillance and Control System. And by 2028, we want you, with your technologies, to work with us to debut what is the new control system that will change the world, become the new paradigm. It was designed and launched by our own city engineers back then, but right now that system processes 39 gigs of real-time data daily from more than 6,000 transit and traffic signals, more than 23,000 sensors on more than 10,000 kilometers of street. This technology has improved our traffic by decreasing the traffic that we suffer in by 32% simply by the use of technology. But we didn't stop with roads. In fact, voters here in Los Angeles passed the largest measure in American history to be able to make sure that we have 15 new transit lines. In fact, one of them will hopefully open next month, finally bringing transportation to our airport. So many of you come from places in the world where that is unnatural, but here, the 7 most feared words in Los Angeles, from one Angelino to another, up till now has been, "Can you pick me up at LAX?" Well, soon, you won't be stuck in traffic. You will actually have a way to go without ever being in your car. And in the meantime, as we build these lines, we will create 1 million new jobs for the next 40 years, people like yourselves and people in the construction trades. Folks who come from underserved communities, who we're building schools for, so if they've been homeless or part of the foster care system, or maybe in a community of color, they can learn transportation careers while they're still in 8th, 9th, 10th grade and enter one of our agencies here. We're trying to make sure that we put the human back in transportation, and I hope that while you're here, you get to explore our city, you get to feel your culture, and I'll end with this. You can be a fourth-generation Angelino like myself, or like many of you, it may be your first time here in Los Angeles. And no matter where you come from in this world, you will find your people, your language, your culture, your food. You will feel at once at home in Los Angeles the first day you are here. But you can be a fourth-generation native like myself and go around a corner and see a collision of cultures that maybe no place in the world has ever brought together. A Korean short-rib taco stand, a place where we see in a single mini mall 5 or 6 different cultures all mixed together. So own this city, you belong here, help us build this city, and let us know what we can do to help you build that future. And let's make sure that transportation isn't just an idea out there, but something that implements a better world for all of us. Have a great conference, and thank you all. See you soon.
Please welcome to the stage your 2022 ITS World Congress Board of Directors Chair, Mr. Shaylin Batt.
Thank you so much, and it is a privilege to be here today. And let's have another round of applause for the mayor, just a great spokesperson for Los Angeles. I think I'm just grateful that we're all here. And you know, coming in yesterday, it was just nice to see so many familiar faces. And you know, we've been through a lot in the world the last couple of years. And when I became the president and CEO of ITS America in Montreal, we were all very excited about LA and the prospects for LA. And then we went to Copenhagen, and we're very excited for LA, and then Singapore, and we were all ready to go LA, and then we had a little delay. But it is great to see so many familiar faces out here. We're finally here, and you know, the theme this year is transformation by transportation, and I can't think of a better city in the world that is showing that transformation with all of the investment that is going on. And so as the chair of the World Congress Board of Directors, it is my great privilege to welcome you here today. Looking forward to this World Congress and all of the great things that will come up, because if anything has been shown by the last few years, we really need to harness technology to solve challenges in our world, and this is going to be a great exposition around that. Switching roles for a second, when I was the CEO of ITS America, I remember talking to companies about being the premier sponsor for the LA World Congress, and I remember speaking to the folks at AECOM and them saying, LA is our city, and we really want this to happen. And I didn't dream at the time that I would actually be working for AECOM a few years later, but it is my pleasure that in that role that we are the title sponsor for this. And this morning we're going to hear from somebody who is a wonderful talent, a visionary leader in transportation. The only slight mark against her is that she has questionable taste in people she chooses to work with, because she worked with me at Colorado DOT, she worked with me at ITS America, and about 6 months ago, I got her to come to AECOM. So please welcome Amy Ford from AECOM for the next presentation. Thank you.
I think my questionable taste has paid off, wouldn't you agree, in working with someone like Shaylin Batt? Well, thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today. We are excited to be here. And so how are you doing, especially after the excitement there? You know, it's one of those interesting things as you ask, how are you today? And usually you get, fine. But, you know, it's always been there. It's an interesting piece. There's a lot of advice that we say, you know, when you want to ask a question, especially if you're talking to your kids around the table, you don't say, how are you doing, or how was your day? In fact, what you say is, how are you brave today? Or how are you kind today? Prompts all sorts of interesting answers. So you could try it at your dinner table as you're going. But these are the questions that unlock what we're really about, what we're thinking about, what we hope to achieve. And when we're at an event that's really designed to present the answers to questions, we actually wanted to start and kick off ITS World Congress today by first focusing on the question. We wanted to ask something that aligns us, to really keeps us to the purpose of who we are as transportation officials. So here's the breakfast table question that you guys get for today. How is it that we're delivering a better world? How are you delivering a better world? How are we making it safer? How are we making it more connected? And I think as we sit and we think about this, the reality is, as I look around the room, what we have in front of us is we have people who are involved in the world bettering business. That's what we do. That's what we're about. What is it, though, that we bring to the table when we talk about the world bettering business? When we sit and we think about this, as we scroll through the many ideas that you're going to see here at ITS World Congress, we start thinking about what it is we put on the table. You know, when we think about that answer, though, as transportation officials, it might be different than, let's say, others. You know, I think about someone like my husband. He leads streaming services at HBO Max. If anyone is familiar with HBO Max, some, perhaps a few of you jumped on, and his answer to this question might be that he brings people joy. He brings people joy as you sit to watch the launch of House of Dragons a month ago, and you're excited and you're ready to go, until it didn't stream for a few of you, and I was talking with a USDOT fan of this, and because why? The viewers overloaded the system. And we know something a little bit about overloaded systems, right? We know what it means when systems overload and when they don't work, because the reality is no one dies when the House of Dragon doesn't stream. That got a little serious, but I wanted to get serious for a half a second. And why? Because transportation is serious business. We know that we're here to change the world. We know when it goes right, that lives are saved, that we connect people to jobs, we connect people to opportunity, we connect people to each other. And so as I sit there and I take you back then to that conversation, the interesting part about transportation and how we focus it is that we always start with the question. That's what we do, right? We focus on the purpose and need of what we're doing, the why. When we sit and we think about what we do, of course, we build bridges. We build some of the longest spans in the world. But why? We do it to bring people together. We do it to create the movement of goods. That's our purpose. When we sit and we think about tunnels, of course, we have gorgeous tunnels that we build. We build them under thriving cities. We build them under bodies of water. But the purpose? To connect communities, to open lines of commerce, to think about how we bring people together. When we think about sustainable mobility options, we plan, we improve, we make sure that we're bringing people in and the partnerships of how we deliver this. But our purpose? How do we safely carry people around? Emphasis on the safely. But more importantly, how do we create alternatives that clean the air as we go? So when we think then back to that original question, and I really want you guys to continue to think about this, what are we all bringing to the table? We bring movement. We bring freedom. We bring opportunity. And I encourage you as we sit here today and as we think about this, and when I think about working at ANCOM, I know that we and all of you are as aligned by this purpose. We're outcomes focused, that's what we do, that's how we roll. And frankly, there's no greater honor than working with folks like you who are like-minded and how we think about how we keep people safe. What we do all time, every time, and continuing to focus on that. And so as we sit and we work through this, I think I want to encourage us to think about how we align by that purpose. And so as we sit here today, we know that you're going to see ideas galore. There's no shortage of good ideas about how we deliver on the why. So how we deliver on the why. And I know that you, as well as I, are looking forward to hearing about the cutting-edge technologies. We're going to see visionaries, some of whom we work with here at ACOM. They're sitting in the room right now. You're going to be blown away by advanced air mobility. You're going to be blown away and wowed by technology that shows for the first time how cars can digitally see bikes. You're going to see how we are inspired by vehicles and highway systems that can charge vehicles as they drive over them. This is where we think big. This is where we do what we want to do. So our opportunity is to reimagine. How do we reimagine this transportation system? But we also have a challenge. And that challenge is to do more than reimagine. So this is the question, and you're going to hear a lot from a panel later today who's going to be talking about how we get past this. We know the pressing issues and concerns of today, the fatality numbers, the challenges that we have, issues of equity and others require that we work faster than we have in the past. We need to be able to ensure that ideas to fix our big city transit systems can move forward. How we think about access that promotes opportunity and reduces commutes and improves social mobility. How we think about transportation design that delivers safety. How we think about emissions. How do we unlock supply chains? There's so much. So, traditional problems and non-traditional solutions don't always work together. We have regulatory frameworks that are old, we have, old guidance, we have stakeholder resistance. We just have to do better. So as we sit and we think, and we move forward this opportunity, how do you do more as you action than reimagine? And guys, can you move the slide for me, please? Here's the challenge. Here's your call to action. So as we go, I want you guys to think about this. How do you engage? How do you think about delivering a better world? How do you answer the questions that we have? How do we think about what we want to do with decarbonization when you're working on a project and you actually offer the new design for that interchange or that bridge? Are you really bringing decarbonization to the table? How do you boldly talk to a technology and include it in a project that goes to safety? How do you do that? Think about that. How do you mentor a new employee so that you bring to them the passion of what transportation is about? How do you engage them in thinking that even when I'm just designing a traffic signal, that it makes a difference in people's lives? How do you engage with the mom who works 2 jobs, who's taking transit, who needs to make sure that she can get to where she needs to go? How do you design a better system for that? We have up here a QR code, and I'd love for you guys to pull it up and talk with us, because I know those stories that I just shared are your stories. They're the stories that you have in your lives. They're how you're thinking about transportation. And when we want to encourage you to think about how you engage, how you move forward, how you look at different policies, how you ensure that what we are inspired by here today is something that can become a reality tomorrow. So thank you so much for your time. Encourage you to enjoy every piece of this conference. And in the same time, make sure that what we have here is not left on the table, but moves ourselves into the next future of transportation. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Dr. Robert Hampshire, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology with the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Hampshire. I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology and the Chief Science Officer at the U.S. Department of Transportation. I bring warm greetings and welcome on behalf of Secretary Pete Buttigieg and our department. We are so thankful to be participating in this important and timely event. This year's theme at ITS World Congress, as you know, is Transformation by Transportation. And it is so fitting for us right now at the department for a couple of reasons. First, because we're in the midst of implementing President Biden's $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure law, which will fundamentally transform the ways that people and goods move throughout our entire country. Secondly, because of our key pillars within the department, one of our key strategic priorities for the coming years is, of course, transformation. To invest in purpose-driven research and innovation that meets the challenges of the present and modernize the transportation system for the future. What I'm going to do today is, in my remarks, focus on the intersection of transformation of the built environment, that's roads, bridges, ports, and the transformation of the digital or technology layer. As we know, automation, connectivity, electrification, cybersecurity, and so many more. And furthermore, I like to consider ways that this community gathered here today, which I've had the privilege to participate in as a researcher for many years. This community gathered here today will help harmonize massive investments in physical infrastructure with the massive changes and opportunities that we see in technology and digital infrastructure. Do it in a way that transforms the transportation system and resolutely delivers on our critical and urgent priorities. Some of those key priorities, as we know, is a safer transportation system, particularly in light of the 43,000 roadway fatalities last year and the increase we saw during COVID. A transportation system that lives up to our climate responsibilities and addresses transportation as our leading contributor of greenhouse gases in emissions here in the U.S. We know we desperately need a more equitable system, knowing that people's access to jobs, health care, and opportunity are guided by their access to mobility. And transportation, logistics, and supply chain systems, as we've seen over the years, that the resilience to shocks and stresses from the global pandemic to international conflict to extreme heat, flooding, and sea level rise. As I mentioned, the bipartisan infrastructure law sets up a framework to tackle these priorities. It provides billions of dollars for our state and local partners to invest in communities. It also provides billions of dollars for nationally significant infrastructure projects, like I mentioned, like roads, bridges. It also establishes new funding sources to allow us to tackle those critical and urgent priorities that I outlined just a few seconds ago. So, like the $5 billion in the Safe Streets and Roads for All program to address roadway fatalities, to the $7.5 billion for vehicle charging infrastructure, to $1 billion or more for reconnecting communities that were separated by legacy transportation systems. In addition, the $8.7 billion to support investments in climate resilience and infrastructure supporting climate resilience. And as you saw within the last few weeks, the great success of President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act that was recently signed that would do so much to address climate priorities across our economy and our nation, but will also deepen our innovation ecosystem within transportation. For example, like the $2 billion investment in low-carbon transportation construction materials. I know there's a lot of those folks, some of those folks here today, to redoubling our efforts to invest in equitable transportation systems in our communities. And like I mentioned, I had the opportunity to participate in this ITS World Congress community for a few years. It's been a great pleasure, but also I'm going to call all of us to action. It's this group, the transportation technology and innovation ecosystem, that must answer the call. We must find new ways to leverage the awesome digital and technological forces that are transforming other sectors of the economy to make sure that we're harnessing those to meet the moment here within the transportation sector. I know it can be done. I've seen it done in many ways, from small to large. We know that within the department we funded, here's an example, we funded university transportation centers, and those are really the ground floor for many of technologies. For example, one which in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon University, really leveraging computer vision, artificial intelligence, and traffic theory to optimize urban traffic flow using smart traffic lights. When we ran the Smart Cities Challenge in 2016, certainly the Pittsburgh proposal for Carnegie Mellon for these smart traffic lights was one of the finalists. Unfortunately, they were unsuccessful, but that didn't stop them. I'm talking about the ecosystem. That ecosystem continued to support the smart spines and smart traffic light project. Now Pittsburgh, also is in a position to deploy those smart spines throughout the city as part of a $30 million project, something they call Smart Spines. Construction on that project is currently underway. This view of technology will allow the city to cut commute times for residents by 25%, reduce pollution and congestion. Also will create safer roads for cyclists and intersections for pedestrians. There's countless stories I could have chosen from. This is just one where you see from basic lab research through partnerships to deployment to impact. This is the type of ecosystem that we believe is needed in order to harness the bipartisan infrastructure law and the ambitious goals therein. So what I want to do now is just make a few announcements today. I want to talk about what we're doing to make sure that these goals happen in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So today we're announcing a set of programs and initiatives that will help guide, fund, and support the goals that we share related to transformation by transportation. These activities are part of a portfolio of more than $1 billion in annual investments at DOT in research and development and technology across our department that will ensure that we're taking a forward-looking, future-proofed approach to our transportation system. So this morning, we released $660 million in bipartisan infrastructure law competitive grant funding to support technology investments and deployments in our transportation system. This represents the first of an $800 million 5-year investment, the single largest of its type in our transportation system's history, that provides the capital needed to undertake technology projects in communities all across the country. One of those programs is a $500 million program called SMART, which will support innovation in vehicles from automation to connectivity, to traffic and infrastructure monitoring, leveraging novel uses of UASs, to systems integration, and also smart grid and traffic signalization. Smart grants are, the way we structure them are in 2 stages, and they will support state and local tribal governments initially with $2 million planning and prototyping grants. And then we will select down for $15 million implementation grants. We anticipate making as many as 30 to 50 Stage 1 grants this year. And we expect to fund the inspiring and diverse set of portfolio of projects in this regard. The other program that I want to announce today is called ATTAIN. Some of you guys might have known it as ACT MTD. It's a $300 million grant program that supports state and local agencies on technology and mobility deployments. The program will support 5 to 10 grantees in this coming year and will fund technologies including ITS deployments, data systems, corridor management, connected infrastructure, V2X, and many more. Both SMART and ATTAIN will leverage technology to address our core priorities and responsibilities like safety, economic strength, climate, and equity. I encourage each and every one of you to learn more about these programs and think about, as a public sector applicant, as an industry partner, as an academic collaborator, or as a community partner, how you can play a role. Now, the programs I just described are, going to ask communities to center their priorities and to develop new solutions. But there are also glaring and specific challenges that I just want to talk about briefly in addition to SMART and ATTAIN. That's intersection safety. We know about 1/4 of all roadway fatalities happen at or near intersections. That's more than, 10,000 mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons that we lose. That includes more than 2,000 pedestrians and fatalities each year. That's completely unacceptable. I just want to tell you a quick story here before closing around intersection safety. So I'm from a small town in Ohio, but I remember vividly visiting Times Square for the first time with my dad. You got to know my dad grew up in the deep South in the 1940s, rural Alabama. So he always has really great nuggets of truth to give me. So we're in Times Square at an incredibly busy and complex intersection, right? And so the walk sign turns green, and I immediately, start to cross the road. My dad pulls me back by the collar, right? Immediately, just as a delivery vehicle whizzes by right in front of us. We would have been hit. After I caught my breath a little bit, I said, Dad, but the walk sign was on. He said, yeah, you're right, but you also could have been dead right. You know, and so that lesson sticks with me, and actually that lesson's embodied in our National Roadway Safety Strategy released earlier this year that embodies the notion of, you know, human mistakes, human vulnerabilities, but also ultimately redundancy in the system. In addition to roadway design and the complete streets concepts, the role of technology to provide an additional layer and redundancy at intersections is critical. So last week, we released on Friday a request for information to seek input on how to enhance safety at intersections. We look forward to your comments in that request for information. Ultimately, that request, in the ideas that we garner from that request, we hope will be the beginning of a future innovation program that help us to realize the vision of improved intersection safety. So I look forward to you all's comments on that. So in closing, I do want to really just, in retrospect, if we look at it, sometimes we think about periods of change and think about how technologies, perspectives, or even modes of transportation, how they change us. And that it is true. There's no doubt that travel, commerce, immigration, and competition that successful transportation innovations have enabled have been truly transformative for humankind. But I want to leave you with the message that this group, ITS World Congress, you know, this is not the group that will merely, you know, experience the changes. This is a community that will help drive those changes. You know, this community will invent and scale new methods to build a safe transportation system for all of us. The new technologies to decarbonize our system and our built environment. This community, you know, is poised to help us create systems that operate seamlessly amid uncertainty and disruptive events, and a transportation system that reflects our values, that people deserve an equal opportunity and mobility, that workers are fairly paid, and we build a system that works for all of us. So that's what transformation by transportation looks like, and I look forward to building it with all of you all. So thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage Deputy Director General for Commissioner, General Secretariat, National Police Agency, Japan, Mr. Yutaka Kobayashi.
Mr. Mayor and distinguished delegates and all the participants, good morning. My name is Yutaka Kobayashi. I am the Deputy Director General of the National Police Agency of Japan. I would like to make my opening remarks on behalf of the Asia-Pacific delegates. First of all, I am sure that it must have been very difficult and challenging to host this ITS World Congress in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to express my appreciation to all of you involved in hosting this great event. We believe that Los Angeles is one of the best cities in the world to host this ITS World Congress with the theme of transformation by transportation, because Los Angeles is the city that embraces innovation and has an open and positive approach towards transformation. In addition, here in Los Angeles, the Olympic and Paralympic Summer Games are scheduled to be held in 2028. This will be very important as Los Angeles prepares to host the Olympic and the Paralympic Summer Games in 2028. Last year, Japan hosted the Olympic and Paralympic Summer Games in Tokyo. When hosting the Olympic and Paralympic Games, it is paramount to safely and smoothly transport many people, such as athletes, spectators, and VIPs from all over the world. To this end, Japan introduced a variety of measures for the traffic management, including implementation of ITS. Japan also carried out a large-scale improvement and development of traffic infrastructure. I believe that ITS contributes not only to the safety and convenience of road traffic, but also to the solution of various social issues. Equitable mobility can also be enhanced with ITS. I hope that the world's most advanced ITS research and development, good practices, and issues of ITS implementation will be widely discussed with you at this ITS World Congress 2022 in Los Angeles. And I look forward to active discussion and cooperation across regional boundaries. Thank you very much.
Join us in listening to remarks from Ms. Adina Valine, Commissioner for Transport for the European Commission.
Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to transport, digitalization is a synonym for efficiency. And efficiency in our sector means both lower fuel consumption and lower emissions. In Europe, we have set ambitious milestones for the coming years, such as getting at least 30 million zero-emission vehicles onto European roads by 2030, and introducing integrated electronic ticketing by the same date for seamless multimodal passenger transport. We are currently working on a legal framework to facilitate multimodality and mobility as a service applications. They will reduce the use of private vehicles, but also complement it. They will help us boost sustainability, resilience, efficiency, and comfort. They will also make it easier for us all to choose the most suitable transport mode. To take multimodality and mass from concepts to day-to-day reality, we need one thing more than anything else: data. Our revised rules on intelligent transport system will make sure this crucial data is available. Drivers, as well as mobility startups and companies, should be able to receive and reproduce real-time information on traffic density, circulation plans, and roadworks through onboard applications, and wherever they are in the European Union, including when crossing borders. As traffic managers also rely on this information, we need a two-way data stream between vehicles and infrastructure. This will also open the door to more automation, allowing driverless vehicles to coordinate their movements safely and efficiently. We are in the process of building a common European mobility data space that will bring together the governance and infrastructure needed for easy access and sharing of data. I want to see a single market for data based on trust and fairness, fostering innovation and new transport services across sectors. Innovation is the underlying factor contributing to the success of our efforts. This is why we continue to invest in it, including through our 7 billion, 7-year Horizon Europe research program. This comes on top of investment in digitalization through Europe's Recovery and Resilience Facility, which has 141 billion euros set aside for digital projects between 21 and 26. Our strong track record in mobility research is thanks to this funding and our work with Ertico and its 120 partners. We also continue to deploy key digital technologies such as 5G. By 2025, we plan to have uninterrupted 5G coverage for Europe's major transport corridors. We are already supporting cross-border trial projects. Ladies and gentlemen, ITS can make our transport cleaner, safer, and more efficient. This is why ITS is and will remain one of our key priorities. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Senior Vice President of Global Transportation Innovation at AECOM, Mr. Shaylin Batt.
Thank you very much. We're now going to have a very interesting conversation with three of my former colleagues here. We have Sir Joost van Tome from Urdico, Mr. Akio Yamamoto from ITS Asia Pacific, and Ms. Laura Chase, President and CEO of ITS America, which is really weird to say, but really awesome that she's in that role. So thank you, everyone. And you know, we talk about transportation and transformation, but the underlying factor here is this digital infrastructure. So, you know, in your roles, in your respective regions, and maybe we'll start with you, Joost, and go down the line. You know, what does that mean? How do you define that? And when you're talking to people, how do you explain to them what that digital piece is?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Sharon. I hope you hear me. Yeah. Thanks for that question. It's a complicated question. I ask it always when we have new recruits. Tell me about ITS, tell me about digital and physical. You get 20 answers that are different. My answer is, it takes 3 to tango. You know, it takes roads, it takes vehicles, pedestrians, it takes systems, traffic lights, as we see here. They all play one instrument, but we need an orchestra to play it together. You have a guitar, you have a trumpet and a bass, but you need to have music. For that music, you need a general layer, which is a digital layer, that will connect the dots, as we do, connect all these things and play music. One example is when a road authority would be interested to know how slippery the road is, he can do 2 things. He can go himself on the road, feel it, see it with his own people, and he can ask vehicles and others to give information, raw data, that they assemble into events, into intelligence. And that is music. And that is one of the components of digital. The second is the communication layer, the telecommunication transport layer. And that can be short-range Bluetooth things. The SRC can be CV2X cellular, and that even can go together. So for that, I think that's also part of the digital infrastructure.
Well, that's an interesting take on the musical piece. When I think about that next time I'm sitting in traffic, I don't know if it'll be beautiful music that is being played, but I like that idea. You know, Mr. Yamamoto, you know, in Asia Pacific, again, what does that digital infrastructure mean for you over there?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the digital infrastructure consists of the function of the gathering data and storing data and analysis and the service application, and the technology which handles these components and the big data. But I think however, very, very important thing is that for what kind of the transportation service should we utilize digital information and data infrastructure? This is the key point. And it will help us to have a practical discussions to clarify the digital infrastructure practically.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Laura, from an Americas perspective, talk to us about that digital layer and that digital conversation that you're having.
Yeah, so we've been talking about this quite a bit lately. And to us, we define digital infrastructure as all of the software, algorithms, sensors, code, and communications networks that allow us to analyze, store, and share, and really use information in a way that will improve safety, enhance resiliency, help us respond to emergency events quicker, and ultimately distribute services more equitably. And we look at it as a systems approach. It's not mode specific, so it's not just for roads. It's across all modes, this digital layer that is going to allow us to operate our physical assets in a much more effective way.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yamamoto, in my travels in Asia, I often see that there's an intense collaboration between government and the private sector. How is that relationship evolving, and how is that important from a digital perspective?
It's a very good question. So each Asia country has its own features. So let me share about the challenges about the digital platform initiative in Japan. So private companies are spending tremendous money to gather and store data and analyze this data to make it usable for the transportation services. Data is kind of oil to be processed. So companies are never willing to provide their data for free when we utilize a private company's data for public services. We must find a tangible and a clear social benefit. And actually, the Japanese government will start a smart mobility platform initiative from next fiscal year with private industries. So one of the challenges actually the project is creating a business model strategy for social implementation.
Yeah, that is also an interesting question, I think globally around data, who owns it, how do you maximize the use, and then a lot of privacy issues, obviously, as well. Joost, it's this telecommunications piece that I think that is also an interesting angle in Europe. Talk to us about both the digitization and then also the sensing layer that's being interwoven.
Well, it's a good question, a very difficult question, because I think 10 years ago, these two worlds, like the telecoms world, the cloud, didn't exist actually, and the edge computing today, and then the automotive and the road sector, they did not really talk to each other. We used each other as supplier and client, but not really as a systemic approach. Today, roads are being more than asphalt and tarmac for maintenance. They're actually talking to vehicles, they're talking to smart city centers, to traffic lights, and they orchestrate the traffic, and they orchestrate the throughput, not only for people, but also goods, for logistics. And it's a communication and thing with the other users. It can be ports, harbors, ships, containers, all this. And I think we showcase this with Ertico in a lot of projects where we trial 5G, for example, cross-border continuity, latency, so for safety applications, that we have the minimum latency possible for these things. So, and sensing of the environment, the outside environment, perception management is very important for automated vehicles. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that I think the pace of change and the acceleration in technology. When we were having some of these conversations, like you said, 10 years ago, edge computing wasn't a thing, and now with edge computing, a lot of that and the cloud, a lot of what we thought had to be on vehicle or in infrastructure is now evolving, and that has happened in a space of say 5 to 10 years, and then as that accelerates, it just gets even more challenging, I think, for others out there. Laura, there's obviously a lot of talk about the investment, the big investments that are being made in the United States. How does that digitization apply, with those investments?
Well, so I always have said that technology is eligible for investment under the new infrastructure bill that we have in the U.S. And if anyone was waiting for a signal of like, when should I do this, I think we heard that just a few moments ago from Dr. Robert Hampshire. 2 Tech Forward grants have been released today, and we are really hopeful that our community here in the U.S. will take this opportunity to make the choice to invest in these technologies, building smarter, not harder infrastructure for the future. This layer of technology is going to be the operating system for the future of mobility. And we need to be thinking about how do we make sure that the infrastructure and the investments we make today are relevant in decades to come. And leveraging technology and these digital solutions allows us to do that and to get more out of the assets that we currently have. So I believe that we are at this very opportune moment right now in the United States with these opportunities in front of us, and it's up to all of us to take advantage and make sure that we're delivering for communities and delivering on our goals of safer roads, safer streets, less climate impact, less emissions, and more equity and access to transportation and opportunity. And I think we have that chance in front of us right now.
Yeah, those are obviously key themes in terms of outcomes. As we consider the organizations that are your members, there's private sector members, public sector members, and I would say from an AECOM perspective, we're a design firm, there are technology firms here, automotive firms here, and I think the private sector is very eager to partner with public sector agencies, but we always run into these roadblocks, right? There's always well, it would be great, but we can't do this. So maybe starting with you, Joost, and then going down to Laura, if you could get rid of one roadblock, or maybe what is your one roadblock where you're like, if we could only do this, or if we could eliminate this, things could get deployed more quickly?
Well, I think what we do in Ertico ITS Europe is bringing 8 sectors together, 8 silos that we actually do music with, because the traffic and transport authorities and operators, they need to talk to the telecom guys, they need to talk to the cloud computing guys, but also to the public authorities and the road sector. And that's the beauty of what we do in Europe with Ertico. It's unique. And we have 129 partners dealing with this through cooperative effects. So we have systematic meetings and exchange of view. My one thing is that we need a common vocabulary. We need a common taxonomy. What are we talking about so that we are on the same space, literally.
Yes, I think communication is key, and I think I agree with you that it's not helpful when we're having conversations using different words, and it's also challenged by different countries and different standards as well. Mr. Yamamoto?
I think the alignment between digital platform and the infrastructure must be important. Unfortunately, each company has already been developing our own digital platform. So the key point is not only to create a centralized common platform, but also how to create the standard API, for example, application, program interface between each platform, so that we can exchange the big data with each other efficiently and economically. This is a key point, sir.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And then lastly, Laura, any digital roadblocks?
So I would say how we fund technology is currently very much, well, how we fund infrastructure, let me rephrase, is very much focused on hard infrastructure. And I think that we need to be thinking differently about technology's needs. Technology does have different needs in terms of software updates, security, and ongoing maintenance. And so I think we need to be looking at how we fund it differently and making sure that we have funds for operating and maintaining the technology that we put into the system, because it's not the same as paving a road or updating other physical assets.
Yeah, I think asset management is an important thing, that if we're going to deploy technology, that we also maintain those assets. Well, thank you very much for this robust discussion, and let's have a round of applause for our 3 CEOs.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure to announce and introduce Kome Ajise, who is the Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Governments. SCAG, as it's known, is the largest MPO in the country. Kome has a very extensive background in transportation and planning, having previously served as the Deputy Director at Caltrans. And now I'd like to welcome Kome to the stage. He's going to moderate a conversation among several Southern California leaders about how they're deploying technology to improve mobility for residents.
Good morning. Can you hear me? No. Good morning. There, okay. Hi there, good morning. Oh, come on. You're in LA now. Good morning. Well, thank you. Well, welcome to ITSA America in LA 2022. My name is Kome Ajise. It's my privilege to be here with you, and more so my privilege to be moderating this august panel. For those who are not familiar with SCAG, SCAG is the Metropolitan Planning Organization for this region, and we are responsible for planning, for mobility, land use, air quality, for the 6-county region with 19 million people. Now, while SCAG can plan for and demonstrate innovative solutions, the work of actually implementing those goes to my colleagues here, folks from the local, federal, state agencies that actually do the work. So at this moment, we have unprecedented, and you heard the Deputy Secretary announce almost $2 billion worth of money. There's this unprecedented period that we're in where there's a lot of investment in this sector, which creates an amazing opportunity for us to actually begin to benefit from all the works that you all are doing and will do. And so we have here today 3 leaders of their respective agencies to discuss how they're using strategic partnerships, deploying technologies to benefit the communities across this state, and especially in Southern California. These 3 obviously exemplify what it means by transformation by transportation, because that's what they do. So with me, to my immediate right, is Secretary Tokes Omishakin. Tokes was appointed the Secretary of the California Transportation Agency by Governor Newsom, February 2022. He previously served as the Director of Transportation at Caltrans since 2019. And his agency is responsible for 8 departments, including Caltrans, the DMV, and the CHP. He's responsible for 21 boards and commissions with over 40,000 employees under his agency. There's a lot more I can say about Tokes. He has a PhD. I mean, I can go on and on. Next to Tokes is Connie Amos, the Interim General Manager at LA DOT. Connie has more than 15 years experience managing policy, strategic engagement, public affairs in both public and private sectors. As Interim General Manager, she leads the nation's 2nd largest municipal transportation agency, managing LA DOT's more than 1,300 hardworking women and men with 52 lines of business. And Connie has, again, a very rich background. We're trying to shorten the bio so that we can get to a panel real quickly, because that's what you're here for. And last but not the least is Stephanie Wiggins. Stephanie Wiggins is the CEO of the LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, LA Metro as we call it. Stephanie came to the assignment in April of 2021, a lifelong trailblazer and a champion of equity and inclusion. Stephanie is the first African-American woman to lead the agency. As CEO of Metro, she oversees an agency that runs the 3rd busiest transit system in the U.S. and serves as a leading transportation planning, programming, and financing agency for the 10 million people in LA County. Before Metro, Stephanie was the CEO of the Metrolink system, which is the regional rail system, the 3rd largest passenger rail system in the country. So with that much further ado, I'm going to jump into the questions. I'm going to start with Secretary Omishakin. So we're here in LA. I understand there are 63 different countries represented here. Wow. And so there are people from all over the world. What is the one thing everyone around the world should know about what's happening in your domain?
Yeah, thanks, Comey. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to California. And to my fellow panelists here as well, thanks for hosting. They're all running things in Los Angeles, in this big metropolis, Los Angeles. So thanks for hosting. And to Laura Chase and the entire staff at ITS America and the executive board as well, kudos and congratulations on bringing us back together 2 years or 3 years later. So to your question, Comey, something to know about the entities under my domain. I'll say mainly from CalSTA, the agency that I have direct oversight of, not necessarily all the departments. The priorities are pretty unique. They may not sound unique to you today, but when we started down this path 3 years ago, it was pretty unique. And those priorities for our agency are number 1, climate action, number 2, safety, number 3, equity, and number 4, economic prosperity. And again, in the space and the realm that we're in today, those things sound like, yeah, you should. But we started down the path of making those what I'm now calling our core 4 priorities. We started down that path way before and long before Memorial Day of 2020, when a lot of people started to pay a little bit more attention to equity issues. Or before the Biden administration came in and said climate is a priority. These were things that we were heavily invested in and focused on. So sort of a unique place and time that we're in. And we believe in California, we are leading the way and will continue to lead the way on those those core 4 priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Connie?
Well, once again, welcome to Los Angeles. Buenos dias to everyone here. You know, it's hard to talk about just one exciting thing that's happening in LA today. I think that for Los Angeles, the transformation has been underway for quite some time. But if I had to narrow it down to one, and after hearing Tokes call out the state priorities, and those are mirrored at LADOT. Our focus is on safety, it is on equity, it is on climate, and it is on the economic resiliency that we know we need to have. We knew it before the pandemic and the social uprisings, but that sort of cemented the need to work with intentional speed. And I think one of the things that we're really excited about at LADOT is how we put that into action in a concentrated way through the implementation of universal basic mobility as a guiding principle in our department, and also as a pilot, which we have been able to benefit from state resources, from local resources. We're partnering with Metro on that as well, which I think goes to show as well, none of this happens on its own. And it's going to require a lot of partnership with folks like yourselves who can bring that technology element and those innovative elements into our work. At the end of the day, you know, for us at LADOT, the largest priority is how do we provide transportation that actually creates opportunity. We see transportation as a through line to how you access job, education, healthcare, even those recreational opportunities that we know you need to have a complete life and to be able to actually feel like you can live a successful and rich life. So I think that, you know, excited to talk more about that, excited to bring that layer of innovation and for you all to sort of get more of a flavor of what LA has to offer.
All right, Stephanie.
All right, well, welcome to Los Angeles as well on behalf of LA Metro. We are the 3rd largest transit agency in the United States. And I would echo my panelists in terms of what's the one big thing that we're doing. It's centered around really, I think our agency is leading that transformation in transportation. We are leading in equity. We are leading with the largest infrastructure program in the country. And we're leading with innovation, and I would say purpose-driven innovation. When I hear the Secretary speak and Connie speak, we're really talking about not innovation for innovation's sake, but purpose-driven innovation. And what you'll see at LA Metro is we have some of the best people in the globe working. We just landed the biggest yet, Miss Salita Reynolds as our new Chief Innovation Officer for our Office of Strategic Innovation. Is Salita in? She's around here, so please seek out Salita. We have Steve Goda, who's a lead for ITS in California, our executive officer. So really, I see Steve in the front. So we're also leading in the people part, but really purpose-driven innovation is the big thing you should know about LA Metro and what we're looking for the private sector and the globe to really bring to LA.
Well, thank you, guys. So, you know, this is California, for those who are not familiar. Big deal here is decarbonization, climate action, mode choice, creating opportunities for mobility. We talk about equity, and of course we talk about safety. So my question to you all is, what are some specific uses of technology that you could share under your leadership or in your agency that will address some of these issues that we are talking about? Sure.
So I think to your question, Comey, you have to start with some of the challenges that we face today in transportation and the challenges that we're going to be facing in the coming years. And when you think about both of those lenses, if you're looking through both of those lenses, capacity and safety are some of the biggest problems we have. I know as people leading things in LA, you guys will agree with this, but not just figuring out how we can improve capacity and safety just in the way we've always done it in the history, but how do we improve capacity and safety using technology, but while considering climate and while considering equity? That to me is the biggest challenge before us, is improve capacity, improve safety, but do it through a lens of all these other issues. And so from a capacity standpoint, you can look at everything from that we're doing in California, everything from smart corridors, trying to figure out how to build corridors that are connected to vehicles and that have gantries that can communicate for several miles on back to people on how to actually use the facility, to micro mobility. But one of the ones that I think is really sort of unique from a capacity standpoint that we're working on is a project called CAL-ITP, California Integrated Travel Project. It's a technology-based solution to try to figure out how we can improve transit access in the state using technology. So part of the challenge for us in California is we have more than 400 transit agencies in the state. And almost every single one of those transit agencies has their own form of payment. And so imagine trying to get from one suburban city into the core city, into LA Metro. Everybody has a unique and different way of a payment method. So we're trying to integrate all those payment systems to make it more affordable, to make it easier, to make it more convenient, and more equitable for people to be able to access transit. And so using that card is going to be a game changer. We've got 4 agencies that have already embraced this tool. And LA Metro, we're working on an agreement with CEO Wiggins. We're working on an agreement with her as well. Hopefully, CAL-ITP is something we can use there, and hopefully globally, eventually across the country as well.
Well, the Secretary keeps mentioning the CEO, Stephanie Wiggins. So I'm going to go to you, Stephanie. So again, same question, but given the sense that in this region, transit is now, as far as our planning is concerned, the backbone of our future. How is that technology enhanced or enabled?
Sure. Well, one technology tool that we've used that's really benefited transit as well as air quality are our express lanes, right? We converted our carpool lanes to high occupancy toll lanes, and we actually did it with a multimodal lens, which I think is consistent with the Secretary's vision. We looked at how could it be leverage technology to improve multi-mobility, air quality, and do it with equity in mind. And as a result, in November, we will have 10 years of operating express lanes that are the most equitable in the country, that have reduced congestion, improved mobility, and reduced air pollutants, and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. And so that was really important because we leveraged pricing through technology to actually shift behavior and improve and increase ridership on transit that operated on the highways. So looking at programs like that where technology can break down silos, I want to echo what the Secretary talked about in terms of integrated corridor management. We're looking at some of our busiest highway corridors, which have traditionally been goods movement freight oriented, like the 710 South, or the 105 or the 210, and saying, let's leverage technology to bring us together. The Secretary talks about partnerships. This is where technology has really helped our institutions break down barriers and leverage technology to really better operate that corridor. So whether it's looking at a highway not just for cars, but looking at technology to improve all aspects of modes, or even with ITP. I can't wait to be able to sign on the dotted line. How do we leverage technology to improve transportation for everyone, and that's what we're committed to.
Yeah, and Connie, as one of the largest municipal DOTs, you not only operate and take care of the street system, but you're also running transit. How's that technology enhanced or enabled?
Yeah, well, I think I want to speak really quick to the exciting Cal ITP technology as well.
Sure.
And I think that the partnership that could evolve with Metro will support a lot of LA goals as well, as we're working together to think about how we might implement a mobility wallet. Tied back to the pilot, actually, that we're doing around universal basic mobility. I think going back to sort of how transportation really does help our lives, enrich our lives, I think it's critical to remove the barriers that people experience in being able to access, whether it's transit, whether it's multimodal movement, whether it's goods movement. So I think how we can leverage technology to really ensure that we're removing those barriers is critical. I think for us, the other imperative is how do we actually advance our digital infrastructure to really be able to support the kinds of innovations that we know are coming to our space. So whether it's the movement of dockless today or automated vehicles tomorrow, even the advanced aerial mobility that we're seeing that could be descending in Los Angeles in the next couple of years. Are we prepared to actually be able to receive some of this innovation? Can we guide it and work together so that that innovation is actually feeding some of those equity goals, climate goals, safety goals that we all have? I think that's the critical work that we've been doing, and with tools like the mobility data specification, which Stephanie mentioned, the great wisdom and visionary leadership of Salita Reynolds. I can't say enough about how forward-thinking she was. 5-6 years ago, she started having the conversation about how are we actually going to talk to companies in their language, right, at their pace, so that we can invite that innovation in, but with the commitment to these policy goals that we have. And I think the continued development of those data tools and the digital infrastructure to support that is critical to how we operate our agencies moving forward.
Well, you guys are exciting me because I am a customer to all three of you. Looking forward to the Cal ITP. I love the Dash, and of course, I run on the Metro system. We're down in minutes right now, and I just want to get to a very quick round, maybe a lightning round on crystal balling. So kind of think about the future. And as you think about the future and you want to tell these folks as they go back to their various places of work, what are the future opportunities of technology that you see, especially ITS related, if possible, and any particular use of technology that we should be looking out for that you're anticipating should come, maybe you don't even use it yet, but should come online because it just makes the most sense. So it's a crystal ball, things that you see coming forward. So you want to start?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Secretary? Okay.
Sure. So, I mean, we're using it today. I'll give you a couple of crystal ball things, and some of them are pretty.
Your crystal ball is kind of like real near term.
Yeah, exactly. It's super close. But freight signal prioritization and transit signal prioritization, I think, are two things that we kind of use a little bit today. But I see a lot of promise in the future as we rebound from what just happened with the supply chain. And think about solutions to be able to get goods to our homes and to warehouses quicker. Freight signal prioritization, transit signal prioritization comes to mind as something that I think we'll increasingly focus on. But in California, we're building the first of its kind in the United States high-speed rail system that will go 200 miles, at least 200 miles an hour, fully electric. Crystal ball, you don't need much of a crystal ball to be able to say, like, yeah, we need to build that one. It's a $100 billion, ultimately a $100 billion project, the most expensive transportation project in the country. So that's a big one. And kind of you mentioned advanced air mobility and the fact that it has a lot of promise and potential. I know there's been a lot of work here in the Los Angeles region as we get ready for the Olympics. But helping people and goods also be able to get to their destinations using advanced air mobility is something that we're starting to think about a little bit more and more. But again, in advanced air mobility, the challenge is how do you do it from an equitable place so that it's not just the more affluent that can take advantage of it, but the entire populace has access to it. So, three quick things come to mind.
All right. Connie, you talked about the mobility wallet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that for us, one of the cornerstones of delivering on universal basic mobility is how can we create, again, that ease of movement for people. And we will capitalize on a subsidy program, so building on a universal basic income concept, universal basic mobility, directing resources to some of our low-income residents, making sure that they now finally have access to choice. But it'll be incumbent on the partnerships that we can leverage to actually really bring to fruition the actual choice element to it, right? Because we are talking about areas of the city that have lacked, whether it's in the public infrastructure that we haven't built over decades, or whether it's in the private investment where services are not actually deployed at the same rate in some of these communities. I think that, speaking to advanced aerial mobility as well, couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of the work that we're doing in Los Angeles is how do we make sure that cities and governmental agencies are at the table as we're developing this new technology so that we learn from the mistakes of the past. I feel like we have to continue to repeat that, right? We made some mistakes in transportation planning in our history that extended to aviation choices that were made. We have to make sure that as we're bringing in these new innovations, we're not actually doubling down on that damage, but we're actually figuring out how to leverage it for good. How can we not only make the travel accessible and the goods movement accessible, but how are we also connecting it back to good paying local jobs and creating that pipeline that can actually help build a more cohesive community. I think the last thing I'll say I'm excited about, there's so many things we could talk about. Leveraging our curb space and digital curb management, I think, is going to be critical to a lot of the components that we're talking about here today. But I'm also really excited about our traffic control system at SAC. That was delivered as a legacy of the 1984 Olympic Games. I think we're looking ahead to 2028 to be able to deliver on the signal prioritization that all of these different modes are going to need for those 2 weeks and beyond. We really want to ensure that we can deliver a 21st century traffic control system in the Los Angeles region that can hopefully inform the entire state and then the country.
And Stephanie, you don't have any problem with crystal ball in this?
No, none at all. I would just add 2 things. I really think we want to see the private sector help us optimize the technology that we have, right? I think what we've learned, particularly following the vision of the secretary, when we layer equity onto how we implement mobility and technology improvements, I don't think that we're getting the best out of that technology. And so whether it's Cal ITP that's saying, hey, we can do more, optimize the technology that we're using, we want to see more of that. We want to have the technology that we've already invested in be around and be useful for generations to come. As Steve Goda told me, we need our Millennium Falcons out there, right? She might be old, but she still works, right? So we want to optimize technology, and as Connie said, the opportunity that the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games give this region is amazing. The fact that they're going to be the first car-free games for us in terms of spectators and the workforce. You won't be able to drive your vehicle to the venues. That's an incredible opportunity to leverage technology in a way that really just is not focused on the car, but is focused on climate change reduction, healthy transportation modes. You walk more when you take trains and take transit. And so we want to see that opportunity between now and 2028 that we leverage technology to really improve the choices we make.
And that's a great note to end on. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you have heard from the representation of California welcoming you to LA. And with that, I would ask you to please thank this panel for us. Really appreciate your time.
Great job, sir.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Connie. One photo.
The Lifetime Achievement Award is given to individuals who have been recognized as thought leaders in the ITS world. They are visionaries and outstanding pioneers who set the pace for the rest of us and bring the magic of ITS into our daily lives. This year's Lifetime Achievement Awards go to 3 of the thousands of great people of ITS.
Dr. Peter Sweatman has more than 30 years of experience in transportation research, innovation, and R&D applications. His work impacts vehicles, drivers, and the infrastructure that touches technology, policy, and strategic planning. He is a trusted international voice on connected and automated vehicles, safety, ITS, transportation research and education, and on freight technology and policy. He has worked extensively in ITS in the United States, Asia Pacific, and Europe. While he has too many accomplishments to mention them all, among them are as founder and former director of the Michigan Mobility Transformation Center, and as a longtime ITS America board member and board chair. Dr. Sweatman currently is a professor at the University of Melbourne School of Engineering.
Nothing better than being recognized by my global peers. I really appreciate it. I'm deeply grateful to ITS America, ITS Asia Pacific, including ITS Australia, and Erdico. Over the years, ITS has given me the opportunity to spread my wings pretty widely, and I couldn't have done it any other way. So I got to live and work in 2 of the 3 global regions of ITS. I got to live and work in 3 host cities, Detroit, Melbourne, and Los Angeles. So I'm very grateful to all those opportunities. My wife, Patricia, was with me every step of the way. So none of this could have happened without her. In ITS, we do cross boundaries and we collaborate in multiple dimensions. We're a global family, and with that comes a bit of sibling rivalry, and that comes out every year when we have the World Congress, and we all try to have the biggest attendance and the best program and the best demonstrations, and it's a wonderful thing. And that annual get-together is so important, and it's wonderful to be doing it again this year at last in Los Angeles. We've stuck together through difficult times the last couple of years, and I think for that we should thank our worldwide chapters who maintain strong bonds, and that's been proven. For me, speaking for me, ITS America created a lot of opportunities for me, and ITS Australia welcomed me back past few years, and University of Michigan, Econolite, and the University of Melbourne gave me a lot of cover to do these sort of activities. So I really appreciate that. I'm not done yet, and long may we collaborate and prosper. Thank you.
Mr. Hajime Amano is the former president of ITS Japan and the former Secretary General of ITS Asia Pacific for 13 years before retiring his positions in June 2022. In his 30-year career, including at Toyota Motor Corporation, he worked to make ITS one of the major pillars of national strategic policies. He showcased the importance of infrastructure resilience at the time of natural disasters, such as earthquakes, and expanded the potential of ITS. And at ITS Asia Pacific, he led through solidifying unity within and promoting interactions across the region.
It's a great honor for me to join the Hall of Fame of Intelligent Transport Systems. Out of 40 years of my career, I was in ITS-related activities for more than 30 years. Many faces are flashing back in my mind. I worked with ITS Asia Pacific colleagues with great diversity. CEOs from Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific had monthly meetings and intensive discussions to enhance global cooperation. I was privileged to meet and directly talk to the thought leaders in transportation on a variety of occasions. My family also enjoyed being a part of ITS community. Thank you all for your support and cooperation. I hope I will be able to make some more contribution to the ITS community. Thank you.
Ms. Claire Dupree is nominated for her support of ITS developments in the European Union and her close work with Ertico throughout the years. As head of unit for road safety / DG Move for the European Commission, she and her team support making Vision Zero a reality. Earlier, she served as head of unit for intelligent transport systems. She has been a driver for accelerating ITS deployment across the European Union, unlocking access to data, and fostering cooperation on innovative services.
Greeting from Brussels, everyone. I'm extremely pleased and honored to receive this award today. It really means a lot to me. As head of unit of ITS, I have been blessed with so many different things. I've been working with the most amazing team in the European Commission. And so Isabelle, Victoire, Stephanie, Gilles, Gert, Gerhard, Pedro, Eduardo, Marco, this prize is actually for you. I had also the chance to meet the most amazing people and minds, and I have learned a lot from the exchanges of views, from the cooperation we have established with all of you, and so I'm bringing a lot of all this experience in my new capacity. I also believe that actually we made actually the best use of any opportunity available at EU level, being it from a financial, from a policy, or from a legal perspective. And so in that manner, we could really be effective in addressing fragmentation of ITS solution and trying to accelerate and foster their deployment all across the EU. However, as head of unit in charge of road safety and having to deal with statistical data on a daily basis, what I can say is that we are not doing enough, not quickly enough. So especially to the European community, what I would like to say is we need more. 2021 figures are not good. They are not going into the right direction, and it's not just unfortunate. And a fatality on an EU road is not just bad luck. So we can do much more altogether. For this, we need your energy, we need your dynamism, we need your commitment, and I'm sure you will have it, all this through the various sessions of the Congress this week. But so, to those much more involved in the revision of the negotiation on the revision of the new ITS directive, what I would like to say is we need more data, we need more services. We need you to achieve road safety targets for 2030, 2050. So we count on you.
Now I'd like to invite the award winners to join us on stage, please.